how dare she question the moon landing? And I was like, that's weird. And then last year I went on Bill Maher. I actually had a great time on his show. But when I first began speaking with him on his podcast, he instantly went in on this moon landing tweet as if this was some philosophy that I had carried with me to college campuses and talked about on my podcast. I've never done that. But he needed me to assert on his show that the moon landing was real and that it was not a hoax. Take a listen to a brief clip from that conversation.
The idea that you could think that this was some sort of hoax, I'm sorry, but it colors everything else.
I'm just saying that, like, I'm just not, like, I feel like you're just trying to find this one. Like, I've never talked about this on my show. You're literally talking about one funny tweet
It's
thread.
relevant.
It's really
it's
not that relevant.
That you won't say,
no,
absolutely people walked on the moon. It's relevant.
Look at that. It's relevant. It's relevant. I need you right now. You have a platform to assert that the moon landing took place, or else nothing else that you say is relevant. That's a bit odd to me. I didn't take the bait on it. I mean, I wasn't alive in 1969. And like I said, it's just not of import. So why was this something that him and his producers felt that they had to front load, that they needed me to assert this to my audience about the moon landing? You would think that that would just not be a priority for them. Well, guess what? Then, after having that conversation, I read that book, Chaos, that I keep telling you every single human being needs to read. And of course, Chaos is about the Manson murders. It is about the CIA. You will read it with your jaw on the floor. You will also be terrified as you're reading it, because if you do not believe that your government has a capacity for evil, and if you do not believe that your government has a capacity to lie on a really large scale, that book will knock some sense into you. And the Manson murders happened in 1969. What you garner from that book, among very many other things, is the fact that the government was interested in mass psychosis. What can we do? Can we create an event that will then create a mass psychosis among the population that will basically, really, ultimately get citizens to comply, to simply comply? And with the Manson murders, you had this horrific murder that happened in Hollywood to this beautiful actress, allegedly. And now we know the CIA was involved in every step of the way, even involved in the trial, even involved in the convictions. Charles Manson was a Fed. He was an asset. And the purpose, it seems, was simply to get people to stop living the hippie dream. And it worked. The hippies' days ended virtually overnight. And of course, they realized that the media, they needed to have the media following every aspect of the trial. They needed to have the people almost performative that were in Charles Manson's family. They needed all of that. The media could get people to react as you're reading your newspaper about the horrors of this murder. What are you going to do? You're going to go buy a lock. You're not going to become a hippie. That's for sure. You're not going to be protesting against war. That's for sure. You're going to get real serious because they just used the media to mass terrorize you into compliance. And so after I read this book and learned what the CIA was up to, after I learned about drugging people with LSD, after I learned about how they utilized troops and how they experimented on troops, and I learned about MK Ultra, I can now tell you I am at a 0% belief in the moon landings in 1969. If you think that I'm going to believe that they were up to all of this in 1969 regarding the Manson murders and the CIA and experimenting with mass psychosis, but at the same time they were totally legit about the moon landings, no way.